Back in May 2020, hashtag Magé UFO would be trending all over the internet. Twitter especially would be flooded with images and videos of strange colored spheres floating in the sky above. Soon videos showing explosions and flashing lights would follow, with people now claiming a UFO had crash-landed and others even saying that some of the aliens had escaped into the woods. However, many of these posts would be taken down before anything could ever be verified, leading to a lot of conspiracies and speculation. So how many of these people, if any, were actually telling the truth? Today, let's look into this strange and possibly extraterrestrial incident. Magé, Brazil is a medium-sized city with around 250,000 residents, and it's located roughly 30 miles away from the capital, Rio de Janeiro. Here in this average Brazilian suburb, a series of strange events would strike the area between May 12th and May 13th of 2020. This story starts with many videos being shared on Twitter, showing multiple lights in the sky. Dozens of users shared these videos, and although a lot of fake footage was mixed in, many of the footage was real too, and this all began to attract a lot of attention. Soon, witnesses were reporting red lights, with others claiming to have seen bus-sized, pan-lid-shaped objects flying quickly across the sky. Residents would say that the UFO seemed to be heading towards the mountains before it suddenly started falling downwards before crashing somewhere in the forest. Many people claim that it actually landed on or very near to the Imbel property, which is a Brazilian military material factory that produces ammunition and explosives. It seems that when the craft hit the ground, a light is able to be seen emanating from it and is caught on video by a couple of different sources. Later that night, many people in the area would be woken up by airplanes and helicopters flying over the area. At this time, other residents were able to capture some lights in the sky, and some of them even seemed to be moving. Other witnesses claimed that this craft was later surrounded by multiple helicopters, with some videos indeed showing multiple lights in the sky. The next day, on the morning of the 13th, as many as 5 helicopters were seen flying very low and fast over the town, heading directly towards the crash area. And over the next few days, many more helicopters would be seen flying over the area as well. Some witnesses would say that the helicopters were even flying over the jungle and hovering in place as if they were looking for something. When researchers later asked the locals about this, many would say that they had never seen one helicopter fly over the area, let alone this many. That day, many locals were not only hearing gunshots, but also seeing smoke and explosions as well. Even though there is a munitions factory right there, residents claimed that all this noise was very unusual. Later on, people would start to claim that the Brazilian army had flooded to the Imbel factory and was closing everything off to outsiders. Others would report hearing more shots being fired from the factory itself, and some videos even seemed to back up this claim. Some locals would also say that their drones were shot down when they tried to fly them over the property. Soon the city council was contacted and asked about all these incidents, but they seemed to try to avoid talking about it and said that there were no accidents in their area. But many people wanted answers, and soon multiple videos of people interviewing witnesses would start to appear on YouTube. In the first widespread video, we have a witness describing the UFO going down the mountainside and then helicopters flying off after it. The researchers would also interview an Imbel spokesperson out of the factory and attempt to have some questions answered, but she simply told them that nothing out of the ordinary happened. They would later remark that she seemed nervous during this interview and looked to be lying to them. At this time, another group of people were filming while hiking out to the area on foot, trying to get a bit closer to the crash site. But before long, a loud explosion is heard, and they all decide to quickly turn back. Another video would soon show up, with the creator saying that they were a local and wanted to help the investigation by interviewing a few people out of the factory. According to them, the employees would tell them that the craft had crashed somewhere behind the factory in the mountains. When it hit the ground, a vibrant light could be seen for about 10 or 15 seconds before the helicopters began flying over the area. The Americans would soon show up and found an oddly tall human-looking body before they took it away in a large truck. One of the more controversial videos, among the already controversial case in general, was recorded on May 16th and published on YouTube on the 22nd. To start off, the description says it was recorded on the 6th, with the creator saying that that was the wrong date but can't change it now. Knowing how YouTube works, I don't really understand the logic here, and it just isn't very credible in the end. But in this video, some people feel like the security guard doesn't even really want to talk to them and is really just screwing with them. The guard says that one craft landed behind the factory with a second landing on the other side of the mountain. He added that the aliens were small and had brown skin, but he fell to the ground and was sick before he was ever able to take any pictures of them. The guard said that soon the whole world practically showed up to take away the alien beings. When asked where the aliens were taken, he would tell them that they were taken to the Oswaldo Cruz Institute in Rio de Janeiro. Later on, researchers would try to contact the institute for questions, but they didn't seem interested in discussing this incident at all. One man claiming to be a witness, a 28-year-old going by the fake name Maurice, even claims to have footage of the crash site itself. However, he said that he didn't want to share this footage online and was looking for a news station or another TV network to buy this footage from him. Maurice would say that he was on the roof when he saw a flash of light and then heard a loud explosion. He said that it seemed pretty far away, but he could still see a white smoke trail leading to the forest. Although he said it didn't land behind Imbel, it was still somewhat close to the property, possibly behind the soda factory nearby. He would soon hear another loud bang before a bright blue light started shining from the trees. He would see the light flash on and off 3 times before it went out completely. Soon after this, he would see even more lights in the sky, possibly helicopters, flying over the crash site. The next day, he said he tried to find the crash site on foot, but never ended up coming across anything. Although this testimony is an interesting story, it seems that the video he supposedly took would never be released, and the whole claim seemingly disappeared. About a week after the crash, someone would fly a drone over the mountain directly behind Imbel. From the footage, it appears that there is a hole in the tree canopy, as well as some damaged trees. One other video from around this time would show a man paragliding over the site, showing the same hole and damaged trees seen before. Now, this case does involve a lot of unverified posts and comments on social media as well. Multiple new statements would come out in the next few weeks that possibly added more details if you're willing to believe them. On May 17, 2020, an anonymous phone call would come in to one of the men researching this case. The man on the phone would tell him that none of the videos out there were actually showing the real crash or the aliens, but something did indeed hit the ground that night. He said that the next day the army went out to investigate and started using explosives in an attempt to open the ship. 3 aliens would eventually come out, with one being immediately shot down. He then claimed that the other 2 escaped into the forest for a while before the US and Brazilian helicopters found him later in the day. On Thursday, May 18th, a man would post on Facebook saying that he knew someone that worked at Imbel but couldn't reveal their name. This employee was afraid of losing her job, but also couldn't stop thinking about the incident and was having trouble sleeping at night. She would say that there were actually 4 aliens present at the site of the crash, with 1 dead on impact. The American military quickly came in, killing one of the others before capturing the remaining 2. She said that they looked human, but were as tall as basketball players. They ordered her to look down and leave the area, but she still saw the strange beings being taken away. The Americans seem to also talk about how UFOs are being seen more and more frequently in that area, and they seem to be all over the place. In this version of the story, it seems that the craft was partially submerged in a river, and she says that the Americans blew up the craft that was sticking out so it was no longer visible above the water. That same day, a supposedly leaked audio recording would make its way around the internet. This conversation seems to be from a man in the military or an Imbel employee that is a regular at this Magé bar, and it was recorded without his knowledge. He would talk about how the craft was actually a teardrop shape and not a saucer, but he believed it was able to change shape as well. He continued, saying, "At least one being has survived. There have been human injuries and interactions with that being. Among others, a local farmer who is in shock and is in a coma in a military hospital." He would also say that the gunshots and explosions happened when the military started to fire on it after it emitted a bright blue light. On an interesting note, some YouTube investigators would go out to these farmers' houses and try to interview them, but they wouldn't end up being able to find any of them. Other witnesses have only told their stories anonymously, with their family usually coming forward with posts on the internet later on. Most would describe very bright lights in the sky for 10 or 15 seconds. Some said that there were actually 3 lights in more of a triangular shape and not just figures in the sky. One woman woke up at 3 a.m. to hear a loud sound that made the whole house tremble. She then heard helicopters flying overhead for another hour and a half. Other sources would say that the UFO was actually shot down by the military helicopters. One man said he tried to drive closer to the crash site, but his car battery seemed to be drained before he got too close to it. Another said that he tried to walk there on foot, but the military was already present and stopped him from getting any closer. One researcher would say that he went to the factory to ask the workers some questions, but would only be told that they couldn't talk about anything. Another man said he tried to fly a drone over the crash site, but was stopped by imbel security guards. Others would claim that the mayor of Magé actually took one of the videos himself, and others said that his office was flooded with thousands of calls about the lights in the sky. Others even claimed to have seen a lot more American military aircraft at the airport near Rio de Janeiro. Some have even claimed that the American helicopters kept flying over the area for weeks after this event too. Now, this is a lot of witness testimony to sort through, but there does seem to be some details shared in many of the stories. All of the sources seem to agree that a craft crashed and then the military came to blow open the doors. Although what exactly happened to the entities inside is a bit blurred, but most say that some died and others escaped before being captured. Many witnesses also did see bright bluish lights emanating from the craft after it crashed. Some believers actually think that the minor differences in these stories actually make it that much more credible, as many of these sources have unique information that's just not heard in any other witness accounts. Although there's no hard proof to back up what these people have seen, all the similarities in the stories do make the case just that much more interesting. But unfortunately, once you try looking for these videos taken that night and the following day, it quickly becomes clear that you have to sort through many fakes and memes to find anything that might be actual footage. Even if you do find something that was from the correct date and location, it's still nearly impossible to find the source of the material to begin with. And it is a bit sad to say that most of the widespread videos involving this incident are now confirmed fakes, or were simply from different events entirely. The first, and probably most obvious fake, is the crash site video. Although the video was fairly quickly deleted from YouTube, many pictures from it still circulate on the internet. What we see is some kind of silver metal bowl which appears to be partially buried in dirt. Discarding the fact that it appears to be a salad bowl, many of the first reports said that the craft was partially submerged in the water, which is not seen in this image. Another concerning factor to the truth behind the crash is that the nearest river to the town is nearly 20 miles away. It seems that there is a small stream located behind Imbel's property, but most say that it's much too shallow for anything to partially be submerged in. On the other hand, several other locals have also come forward saying that although they saw this object partially submerged in water, it wasn't at the river. Then there's also audio of a supposed leaked military conversation discussing this event floating around Twitter and YouTube as well. This one was also quickly found to be a fake because although it managed to easily fool foreigners, locals could easily tell that this wasn't the military speaking. To native Brazilians, it sounded much too informal and was full of slang, not something that they would expect to hear from military personnel. Out of all this, there was really one image that fueled most of the cover-up conspiracy theorists. When looking at that area with Google Maps at the time, you would come to see an odd white spot right in the area where the UFO was supposed to have crashed in. This got many people thinking that Google must have been forced to censor this portion of the map so that no one would be able to see what was actually down there. However, this theory too was quickly found to be false for a couple of reasons. For one, Google Maps are in no way updated in real time, and many of the images are months or even years old. Another counter-argument was made by Google themselves, with a spokesperson stating, "In this case, what people are seeing in the imagery is a reflection that is temporarily overloading the satellite sensor. Essentially, the sun reflected off the surface of that building at just the right angle to briefly blind the satellite. This is a pretty common phenomenon known as saturation or blooming." When people in the area were asked about the specific spot, they would actually say that there was a house there for many years that had some sort of reflective material on the rooftop. Some of the other media going around were even more obvious fakes. There was even a picture of an alien said to have been taken during this event. However, a simple reverse image search will show that it's actually just from a little-known photo shoot taken in the German woods. Another widely spread video shows many lights in the sky forming different shapes. This was found to have actually been a video from a drone show taken in Mexico just a couple of weeks before this whole incident. There was another viral video with several lights looking to be falling from the sky, and this turned out to be a stunt performed by nighttime skydivers and didn't even take place in Brazil either. Another video going around would show a bright streak in the sky, but this was actually a video taken over Guam in December 2019. After all this came to light, many would write the whole thing off as a hoax just because of all the confirmed fakes. But many still believe there's something more to all of this. Although much of the media going around does indeed seem to be fake, there is still some real video and pictures mixed in there too. But what you can actually see in these videos and pictures is still highly debated. Even when setting aside everything on social media, you're still left with dozens of witnesses that claim to have seen strange lights, sounds, and even objects crashing to the ground. Even many locals that didn't witness the event believe that something strange must have happened that night just because of the military presence the next day. And there's just so much witness testimony that many simply can't dismiss the incident as entirely fake. But with that said, there is still some discrepancies in the witness statements. Some witnesses would say that the explosions happened when the craft hit the ground, while others were told that it was when the military tried to blow open the craft from the outside. At least 4 separate witnesses on YouTube would all claim to have seen the craft hit the ground, then the military blowing it open, and even 3 strange creatures attempting to flee. However, the events after this seem to be a little less known, with witnesses claiming that 1 was executed, 2 were executed, 1 escaped, 2 escaped. It doesn't seem like we actually know for sure. Another discrepancy would be the exact location. While most witnesses said it happened behind Inbel Factory, others would claim that it actually happened roughly 20 miles northwest. Some would even say that there are a lot of unmapped streams in the area and it could have easily been one of those that the craft fell into. What does make this comment interesting though is that 20 miles to the northwest there is a small river offshoot that would be deep enough for something to be partially submerged in. Other theorists believe that all the gunshots and explosions in the city were actually a way to distract people from the actual crash site and the alien escape that was going on elsewhere. It seems that the exact location of the flashing lights weren't quite known either. Many believe that it was coming from Inbel property, but others were saying that it was actually a different mountain seen in the video. Another thing people couldn't quite agree on is the exact time that the flashing lights were seen. Many said it was just past 10 p.m., while others would argue it was taken at 1 in the morning. Some people believe that there could have just also been multiple events taking place, but no one has come to a definite conclusion. There's also 2 different descriptions of the aliens, tall humanoids and small brown creatures. And this actually led others to come up with some strange theories. One idea that people have put forward is that the multiple spheres in the sky were actually different alien factions fighting each other. One side lost and was shot down to the ground before the military would quickly swoop in and attempt to blow open the hatch. Another theory put forward is that the aliens managed to escape about 20 miles away until they were captured the next day by some military helicopters, leading to the 2 different locations being mentioned. After viewing the video showing explosions and flashing lights, many thought that this could have just been Inbel celebrating its anniversary. Some thought that this might be a good time to showcase a new weapon or simply set off some fireworks. This might also explain the large amount of military presence seen the following day. But from what investigators have gathered from the locals, either of these scenarios would be highly out of the ordinary and have never happened on previous anniversaries. Another big hole in this theory is that the actual anniversary date was more than 2 months away on July 14th. Many say that hearing bangs or gunshots coming from a munitions facility should be expected and really isn't that out of the ordinary. If anything, they think the townspeople are lucky that they haven't heard or seen anything like this before. But many citizens would disagree with this, saying that this definitely was not a regular occurrence. Many of them were even quite scared as nobody knew what was happening at that time. It seems that almost as quickly as these videos started to take off, they suddenly started to disappear as well. Many posts moved from Twitter over to the RUFO Reddit page, but they were quickly removed there as well. It then made its way over to the R-Alien page and stayed up long enough to gain thousands of upvotes and comments before this time being taken down by the author himself. This led to even more speculation, and some people thought something else was going on behind the scenes, and it was possibly even being covered up by the military. However, in the next few days, Imbel would actually make a public statement saying that an employee had died during a recent explosion test. The sister of the victim would even make a post on Facebook shortly after, mourning the loss of her brother. She also seemed confused as to what the actual cause of his death was and wanted more answers, writing, "Let's share. It can't stay like this. Help me. Share it. We want research. Whether it was an accident or not." When further investigated, a Brazilian outlet, UOL, would argue that there wasn't even any recorded records of unidentified aircraft flying over the area, meaning that either no one in town had actually called to report a UFO, or none of the reports were ever taken seriously enough to be written down and looked into. This investigation was led by the Brazilian director for MUFON, Admir José Givared, and he would quite quickly come to the conclusion that this whole story was not real at all, saying, "My team and I have intensively investigated this alleged case and found out that it is a total hoax." The team would also find that the supposedly leaked audio tape was a fake, and they were even pretty sure they knew who created it. Griviard said, "As time went on, the story got bigger and bigger every day, with many alleged witnesses making all sorts of claims, all disconnected from each other, all exaggerated, and mostly lies." During this investigation, he would even hear from multiple people that they actually enjoyed spreading these memes and rumors on the incident just for fun. Another ufologist, Marco Antonio Petit, would also speak about this incident on CNN. To him, none of these videos showed anything that would suggest that a spacecraft had actually crashed, telling them, "The very footage I've seen in the last few days of supposed ufologic occurrences in the sky are nothing but errors of filming the planet Venus and satellites." Although this explanation does make sense for many of the videos, it still doesn't quite explain everything. With many people describing the event in great detail, some say that the best evidence is just the large amount of witness testimony. But in the end, there might just be a reason why these videos disappeared so quickly. Some people believe that it was all covered up by the US and Brazilian military, while others believe that it may just be a case of mass hysteria mixed in with misinformation and internet trolls. While many of the videos can be written off as Venus or footage taken from unrelated events, that's not the case for all of them. It does seem that something did indeed happen that night and the following day, but whether it was a crash-landed alien craft or just an unfortunate explosion at a munitions factory is for you to decide. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you like this video. Leave a comment too, I'm always interested what you guys think about these cases as well. A big thanks goes out to Voodin13 for suggesting this topic, and another thanks goes out to Daniel Groth, whose website is actually down, but is still available on the Wayback Machine, and I'll link that down below. And if anybody wants to hear this video instead of watch it, it is available on most podcast platforms, so be sure to check that out. And please people, if anybody wants to show their support, I am still a growing channel and would love to upgrade the quality a bit, so be sure to check me out on Patreon or my channel membership page where you can get these videos early and ad-free. This was Matt, and honestly, I'm not sure if I'm entirely convinced this time, but I still want to believe.